often I see people asking about how to start their homeschool journey and what should they do. And I often hear people, just recommend a particular curriculum. But, Tiffany, her wisdom of starting with philosophies, and she'll really get into what she means by that and the structures. And some of them you have heard of, and you'll know exactly what she means. And some of them you may not have heard of, but it is a way of approaching the learning and structuring the learning that is the secret to her success for her children being above grade level and really doing well. She is a homeschooling mom. She's been on our show before, and she's going to give us some tips about what she does to really fill her role as the first teachers and the continuous teachers of her children. She's a mom of 3. We're going to discuss her teaching philosophies that she used to base her homeschooling journey on. She is not an educator by career before she became a homeschool parent. So these are some ways that she structured her the learning for her students, right? Based on these tried and true teaching structures and philosophies. Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. I am TD Blennaw. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success. Tell us more, Tiffany.
Yeah, so thanks for having me again. And I, like you said, when I got, into homeschooling, didn't know where to start. It kind of felt overwhelming. Even though I have to give the caveat here, I am married to an educator. So I did have an advantage in there. And my best friend is also an educator. So I have people that I can go to that have the experience. But at the end of the day, I'm the one there with the kid, right? So
every day. Yes.
Day, yeah. So what I did to kind of help me was I learned about different philosophies that have been around for years that people kind of base the way that they teach on, in the homeschool environments. One of them, I think, is probably one of the most known strategies or philosophies of teaching a child is called Montessori. So this was founded by Maria Montessori, and basically it focuses on the child having self-directed activities and being hands-on with their learning and being like a collaborator in the learning process and having collaborative play, like before we mentioned about play-based learning. So this philosophy also incorporates that. So for example, some of the ways that a child who is doing learning in a Montessori style, they would kind of work on their fine motor skills by pouring. So they would have a pitcher.
Hold on one second. You skipped. So do that part again. Just say it was like like at the beginning of that. Maybe the play bait.
Where I was saying that they would use a skill, how they would learn their motor skills.
Yeah. So let's just start that. I think I just started recording again. So that's fine. So just start there, like how they would learn, how they would build their motor skills or whatever. Yeah.
So with a Montessori style of learning, a child that was working on, let's say, motor skills, an activity that they would have set up is you would have them work on pouring. So you would have a pitcher and various vessels that they needed to fill with water or a liquid. So the different vessels that they're going to fill would have a guide for where they needed to stop filling. So each one has a different amount that they're going to fill it up to. So this helps them work on, like I said, their motor skills, their concentration, and their focus. Because as they're like pouring this water, they have to really focus on how much they're putting in each vessel.
Okay.
And that's also, a play-based activity, right? It's a fun and engaging way. So Montessori has all types of different activities that are kind of similar to that. And it's just a style of, the child is really engaged with setting up the lunch table. They do all of the prep and they set it up. They put out their mat and then they put their plate in their cup and they have a whole routine and then they put all their food on their plate and then they eat and then they clean up. And it's just the child is really kind of just collaborating alongside the teacher. It's they have different assignments that they call work and there's different stations and they, engage with things like, one of the examples that I gave, or just even using different wooden tools to count, manipulatives and different stations are set up for, the children to go and engage in that way. So they're not using like worksheets and things that are more conventional. They're using materials that are like, for the kid to touch and feel and use all their senses.
Okay.
So I was really inspired by that when I began my
One of the babies is upset. You need to pause or you want to
I want to pause here because they're like right here.
No problem.
So I'm going to wait until they go.
I'm just going to plug in my computer. I realized it was...
Are we on the next one yet or no?
Yeah, we can start with the next one now. So another one is called Reggio Emilia. And this is something that originated in Italy, I believe. And this emphasizes as well child-led, project-based learning, but they use a lot of art and nature and the environment. So, for example, with this style of learning, a child would maybe go outside with a piece of paper and something to draw with, whether it be a crayon, a marker, a pencil, whatever. And they could maybe use the paper and other objects in nature to create shadows on the paper and then trace the shadows. And then they can engage with whatever the materials are that they've gathered and kind of talk about the textures, the colors, just have an engaging moment and activity. They could then color the shadows that they've traced and paint, and make a beautiful art project, So this style of learning, to the children, create a lot of really beautiful art, which I was really drawn to because I'm someone who really likes making art projects and doing things with art materials and nature. So I do those things with my kids in this style. Like when we go on nature walks, we're always like picking up different leaves that look interesting or pine cones, and we come back home and make art out of it. So that's what I liked about the Reggio Emilia philosophy when I learned about it. So I just kind of took bits and pieces from each of these philosophies and put it together to teach my kids. So I didn't stick to just one. And, my whole style of learning it wasn't just on that one style. It was a mix of all of them. And another one is the Waldorf. I think a lot of people know about the Waldorf centers. There's a lot of Waldorf schools I've heard of as well, like preschools and just schools in general that are based on this philosophy. And this one is kind of more also, nature and art is engaged in it. But this school, this philosophy also uses a lot of like holistic point of view, the child's mind and their heart and their physical body is incorporated in the learning process. So it's not just about direct teaching and, answering and asking questions. In that way, it's dancing, it's movement, it's singing, it's meditation, it's talking about the environment and recycling and taking care of the earth and just healthy eating and healthy living and having that all incorporated in the learning process also. So I could give an example of an activity with this style of this philosophy, this Waldorf style. Children could engage in making like nature puppets. So you could be going on a nature walk or just go outside and gather some leaves and some sticks, and you could glue the leaves and the sticks together to make little puppets and tell a story. Have the child create a story and engage with them and ask questions that are open-ended that, let the children act it out and maybe create songs and characters with the little puppets. So that's another one that also combines art and nature, which is another reason why I was kind of drawn to that. So for the parents out there, you can just kind of not only want to pick up a philosophy or, create things based on a philosophy that your child would be drawn to, but also you, as the parent being the teacher, you also want to feel engaged and encouraged and, excited
Yes,
about teaching your
absolutely.
child, right? So let's say you're not someone that maybe you have a really physical child, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you're not a sports person.
The Rewrite Method and the Rewrite Method Workbook are your go-to resource for helping kids to learn to fall in love with writing. It has the tips, tools, resources, strategies, and skill-building activities to help kids fall out of writing hate and into loving to write. Get your book set today.
And yourself, like maybe you're not athletic, right? And you're more artistic. So maybe trying to combine the both of them, the art and the athletics, so that you both are, the parent and the child are both engaged, having, I just wanted to, give that tip too, because you don't want to feel like it's a burden, right?
Right.
It's your child. You want to feel like excited about it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So another one is that's really popular is project-based learning, where the child is focused on something that is going to be a project that is going to take more time and it's going to be a little bit more elaborate, and they can they can work with other children on this project, and it may take a number of days or weeks for them to complete it. So it could be something like designing like a community garden, but like a miniature version of it, right? And they could map it out on paper. They work together, collaborate, come up with ideas. Like, I want the garden to have a fountain, and I want the garden to have a vertical plant wall, and I want the garden to have this and that. All the children, put in their ideas, and they collaborate together, and they figure out where everything is going to go. And then they gather the materials, and they have to like measure it out. And they just learn so much as they go along doing this, this project that is kind of elaborate and kind of takes their time, takes a lot of time and effort,
Yeah.
So I really like that too, because it teaches them like, social skills, working with other people. It teaches them, how to manage their time, for example, all these other things.
It's like a real world, kind of a real world application. Like we've created this rather than like I finished this assignment to give to my teacher. Like we've created this, and that was part of our learning, which is real life, right? If you're like a construction worker or, you helped do city planning or whatever it is. Yeah.
A baker or anything, you have to manage your time. You have to measure out what you need and gather your materials in the right amount. And, you have to rely on other people sometimes to, provide
collaboration.
Exactly. So that's the real life application of that one, which is really good, especially for children that are homeschooled. They can just have that more social aspect of their learning. And then the last one that I wanted to talk about is forest school. And this is basically something where children are just outdoors all day in nature learning. So there are some families that I know that this is the way that they do like 90% of their learning. They are outside. There's a nature school that I knew about, and I kind of visited, but I didn't like drop my kids off because it's like you can drop your kids off literally in a forest, and there's a creek and there's trees, and they're there all day working together to create little projects. And sometimes they may be given an assignment to go and build like a little structure for an animal or for whatever they come up with, right? They're going to go build this structure, and they're going to have a whole story to go along with who lives in this structure. How did you make it strong? How did you make it sturdy enough to stay up? And does rain get in? Are the elements going to come in? They have to think about all of these
critical thinking.
Yeah,
wow.
So it's another project-based learning as well, but completely in nature. So,
and then is that the one with the nature's the third teacher? No?
Yeah, I think that was also, that particular, was with the, Reggio Emilia.
Okay.
That was their, philosophy on that, the nature being the third teacher.
Yeah. All these approaches are in the show notes. So I really am glad that you brought up these different ideas, because I think this is more what people need when they're asking about how they should do their homeschooling journey. And I hear just a curriculum, or I even hear things like just do unschooling. And
that's a big one I hear a lot too.
Yeah. So I don't know how helpful that is. Like maybe if, these have specific books and approaches and things that people could latch onto and build. And, I think a part of homeschooling for some people that they need to think about is that it is individualized learning, right?
Right.
And sometimes people don't know how to engage their kids. And part of it is this, like, you're not considering what is interesting for the kid and what their interests are. And, yes, you're maybe just focusing on this curriculum. Like, this is the curriculum that I need for my child, because it's already packaged, it's already there. But sometimes, if you felt like I need to do homeschooling for my child, they probably need an individualized experience and
Right.
something that is more tailored to them. So not to throw curriculum out the window, but also have some kind of basis or foundation to help continue to build when maybe that curriculum doesn't fit. And I don't think any curriculum is going to be 100% fit. Like, even as a teacher, I'm making adjustments in how, I do, deliver curriculum, or for the students that I have, it's not, I don't think it's the best idea anytime to just say, like, open the page and talk,
Yeah, just do the book work and
or just print it out and done.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something maybe you may not know if you're like, not, you don't have the basis or the experience or whatever, but it's a good thing to consider.
Yes, of course. I knew that I wanted to make it engaging for me as well. And I knew that it would feel kind of boring and a drag if I just had a website or just had a book and just opened it. And, that doesn't seem exciting to me because I'm like a very creative person. So I needed to put that creativity in there. So,
yeah, for any teacher. Yeah. Any teacher, when it's like a book that I love that I'm teaching my students, they'll pick up on that and they will be more engaged. Obviously, sometimes there's things that I don't necessarily want to teach, but they'll, say that I need to or whatever. And so, I'll do some innovation and try to find things that are engaging for me, or like I could pull out of it that's going to be something very compelling to me that I could convey to my students. But with homeschooling, you don't have you don't have those same constraints, and you could really use the creativity. And this is a way to build right on these structures that they already have.
having them do things that also help build their fine motor skills, like it's using sensory play. So using water, anything that engages all of the senses, like water, right? That engages touch and the hearing and the sight and the smell. All the senses are engaged in this activity. So that's what you want to think about when you think about sensory play.
Okay.
Play-Doh, water, tapioca pearls, you can boil those and they're like squishy and they have like this interesting texture and you can dye them different colors.
Okay.
So that's really cool for, younger kids and bigger kids too. I mean, hey, it doesn't have to be an age limit. For example, filling and pouring different vessels is a great way to engage those skills with sensory play, Play-Doh rolling and cutting. They have little cutters and just engaging in all those kinds of activities like that. And then, of course, like building blocks is a great way to work on all kinds of math, colors, thinking about like learning about like dimension as well with the blocks and maybe building a town or a home or, we can go on and on, with blocks, whether it be Legos or wooden blocks or plastic blocks, whatever.
I think you said magnet tiles. Are those the same?
Oh, yeah. Magnet tiles are so cool because they're like these translucent, colored tile-like blocks. And they have magnets on the sides. And so they stay together when you build your structure, you can put things inside them. You can even make like those like marble run type structures where you have different levels, and you can put balls or cars, and they can roll
Oh,
down.
okay.
It's cool. Since they're translucent, you use them on light tables or with flashlights or little. I like to use those little candles. The little battery operated tea light
Yes, yes,
candles. Put
yes.
those in and kind of light up your house and things like that. Movement is another way. Just maybe making thing like a freeze dance type of thing where you're like have the music going, and then you have like a magic word that makes everybody freeze, or you're counting and you're jumping around, and you're hopping and you're counting as you hop, and just all kinds of fun ways that are learning that aren't as the conventional way that you
Yes.
typically think of, sitting at a desk with your pencil and your book and your paper and things like that, kind of thinking outside of the box in that way. And I also wanted to share some of the Instagram accounts that really inspire me when I'm trying to come up with ideas and things to do with the kids. Just three of them. One of them is where learning meets play. So it's like where underscore learning underscore meets underscore play.
Okay.
That's a really cool teacher in Australia, actually. And she has this big, beautiful classroom with so many just engaging toys and manipulatives and textures and colors, and it's just like a dream. So I like to see what she comes up with, what she sets out for the children. Each day she just makes it so beautiful and engaging, and it's like I want to go to her class and like do some of the activities. I'm so inspired by her. And then there's Mulberry House Play School. And they are also a play-based learning preschool. And it's just beautiful how everything is set up for the kids. It's very engaging, and the kids just, their creativity is on full display. They are just in there creating and playing and building and making all day long in such a fun environment. So I get a lot of inspiration from that Instagram account, and she has an amazing Amazon storefront where you see all the materials that she has at her school. You could buy them, some of them to kind of help your kids, but I really find her really helpful. And then another one is called Tinker Wonder Play. And she's lots of creative ideas as well for play-based learning. So I just think that is just helps the child become more engaged. And as we mentioned in another tip about noticing what your kids are interested in and incorporating that into play and learning, it could be really powerful in giving them the competitive advantage, like I know you are
Yes.
about sharing, helping parents and teachers understand. So yeah, play-based learning is really important and powerful for the kiddos.
Thank you so much for giving us those tips. They're all in the show notes. It is great. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning, or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.